the Memphis Massacre of 1866. Now, this event was, of course, marked by a clash between the African American community and city law enforcement. Of course, right? We see the theme, right? So let's get into this 3-day long attack. This was a 3-day long attack. So it was a 3-day spree of violence, and it started on May 1st. So the Memphis Massacre of 1866 was a horrific 3-day spree of violence beginning May 1st that saw white mobs attacking black individuals, homes, and businesses in Memphis, Tennessee. Now, this episode, which is now the second one that we're talking about, but this one actually happened before the New Orleans massacre. This episode of brutal racial violence was spurred by deep-rooted tensions exacerbated by the recent end of the Civil War and the changes brought about by Reconstruction. Now, the immediate spark for the massacre was a conflict between a recently discharged black Union soldiers and white city police officers. And here's what happened. On May 1st, a dispute occurred when the police attempted to arrest a black ex-soldier. Now, what happened? When this white officer tried to arrest this black ex-soldier, an estimated 50 blacks showed up to stop the police from jailing him. So, obviously, we know this is largely a black community, our community, but they see this happening. 50 black people come like, hey, no, what you doing? First of all, why the hell you policing in our city? But okay, let's not even go there. But so after they attempted to stop this officer from arresting this black man, the incident almost immediately escalated. No one knew, not no one. There aren't any reports that show who actually shot first. I sort of have an idea about that, but this was long-standing racial animosity, post-war economic competition, resistance to Reconstruction. Y'all know post-war economic competition. Basically, now there's an equal playing field. Black people out of enslavement have the skills to work, take care of themselves, and we're just skilled in almost everything. We were skilled before we got here. And then you stole us because we were skilled. Common sense. We still gonna be skilled after you leave us the hell alone. But with the white people and white ideology, instead of them figuring it out, they want to go blame somebody. So they're looking at it like, oh, these black people is the reason I can't sell my pigs to 5 people. Now I gotta sell my pigs to 3 people. Like, come on, man. Like, most of that shit, these were, white people seeking out black labor at a cheaper cost. So it had nothing to do with the black people who were being hired by the white people. It had everything to do with the white people hiring the black people. You can't sell your pig because, this damn man, this damn pig shop over here I don't even know if it was a show. Because this damn pig shop over here is paying a former slave half the price. So shit, he can go down on his costs. Because he getting his labor at a low cost. He getting it damn near cheap. Now, white mobs, of course, including police officers, again, you see the pattern, firemen and civilians, use the altercation as a pretext to unleash a violent attack on the black community, leading to 3 days of rampant violence, looting, and destruction. This is also a thing. This is the whole part of allowing the worst parts of your society, the white society, to dictate and lead the other parts of society. Most people go with the flow. If you got a fucking psycho leading everybody on a psychopathic rage, now every fucking body is a psycho. It didn't spread it. Spread to everybody. It was just one psycho. Now it's 50. And them 50 psychos now is 100. Like, root that shit out. Get that fucking psycho up out of here. No, they wouldn't do that though. Nope. They didn't do it because it was happening to the black community. They didn't care about rooting out their psychos because they made them police officers. They already knew they had a propensity for violence, but they didn't care. Now, we know the underlying causes were more complex, involving economic competition, of course, and the struggle for power in the South post-war. Now, remember, Ida B. Wells uncovered this pattern of racial tensions and racial animosity, really often masked as somehow protecting white women purity, when she investigated further into some of those race riots, also those lynchings of black people, she saw that it was all tied to economic competition. These people couldn't compete, and so they would make up shit to kill off their competition. Now, white residents, including many former Confederate soldiers and slaveholders, were antagonistic towards the growing black population. Mainly the black Union soldiers, who symbolized a new social order. They hated seeing these black men in uniform, but not just uniform. These are the black men that beat the hell out of them during the war. Remember, these are the Confederates. They lost. The Union didn't stand a chance until when? Until Lincoln made the former slaves soldiers, to the point where there were several army leaders. These were like generals, or I don't know what the hell you have. They are captains over whatever. I don't know. Captains, lieutenants. I don't know the hierarchy, but some of the Union leaders ahead of, whatever, 126th Regiment, whatever the hell it is. After Lincoln allowed the slaves to become soldiers, there was several white Union leaders, that led the armies or whatever. When they saw the black soldiers fight, they started writing about them. Of course, there was, a correspondence between. That's how they kind of used to get information passed. But remember, so that's pretty much how they talk to each other. But also a lot of them was, writing in diaries and shit like that. But when they described, a lot of them was like, oh, hell yeah. Like, oh, these black soldiers are some of the best, strongest fighters we've ever encountered. They're strong. The amount of fight that they put up is like 10 times the fight that the white soldiers put up. Now this is also another pattern that we see, because remember, if you know, because most people don't know about this, but during the American Revolution, when the colonists was fighting the British, they did the same thing. Now the British started telling black people, hey, if you come fight for the British, you won't be no slaves. Matter of fact, you'll be full citizens and you'll have this, they kind of sprucing it up and shit. Or I guess they would be considered the patriots, because they had loyalists and patriots. So the patriots, which was the Americans, that's George Washington now. They saw like, oh shit, we gotta start letting these fucking slaves fight, because they killing us. And then when they actually allowed the slaves to fight, they say it again. These are some of the best fighters, the strongest fighters. They have some of the best strategic minds about war, movement, the terrain, the seasons. Like, these black soldiers are smart as hell. We need them. They are also a part of the turn of the Revolutionary War. The founding of this country. What happened? Black soldiers came in, saved the day. I guess. Because they didn't save the day for us. Boy, if they'd known. But, well, no. Because in a sense, they kind of knew. But a lot of them, when they were fighting for the Patriots, they were promising them freedom too. So they sort of was like, George Washington was sort of like, okay, we match. Shit, if King George and them and the Redcoats gonna give you freedom if you fight for them, well shit, we'll give you freedom if you fight for us. While we fighting to keep y'all as slaves. These people, they don't make no sense. You see the pattern of the fighters over 100 years. The Revolutionary War takes place around 1776 or so. This is now, Civil War is around 1860. It's almost about 100 years later. They see the same thing. White soldiers aren't strong. They half-assing. They not smart. Some of them is, they don't have no level of commitment or discipline about themselves. They half-ass want to fight. It's the same thing. And so those black soldiers was like a slap in the face. Because not only did they have to deal with the fact that these black soldiers was fighting, had permission to fight them and probably killed. I'm sure they did kill. Not only do they have permission to fight and kill, but they beat us. And remember, that's similar what they started doing with Forrest Joe. They start making up shit about him. Oh, he's supernatural. Oh, he got some powers. No, he just smarter than y'all. He just had more wit. He had more sense than y'all. Y'all too busy being blinded by race. You can't fully be smart. Only thing you see is black people kill. Black people hate. Your hatred for another group of people is clouding your brain. Y'all can't think straight. And pretty much I believe that's the same damn thing. The U.S. Army commander, Stoneman, ordered the black soldiers back to Fort Pickering, and that's just outside Memphis. And of course they obeyed and they left. Well, that didn't stop the white violent attack. The violence just spread. Now, instead of them warring with black Union soldiers, they just start going after civilians. And this, of course, what the white mobs included, police officers, civilians. What did they do? Indiscriminately attacked black residents. Yep. They burned homes, schools, churches, assaulted and murdered people with impunity. You had a problem with the black Union soldiers, so we sent them out. You still won't calm that shit down. You still amping it up to the point you start going after just normal civilians. Now, of course, remember, this included Memphis police officers and firemen, right? Guess what they did? They was participating, but they wasn't just assaulting and murdering people. They was looting. What? I thought looting was only... Nope. Why y'all looting? Why y'all looting black people? This is the black community. These are black residents. This is who they was attacking. So, of course, who's supposed to protect the black people? We put up resistance with the black soldiers. What happened? You order them away, but you don't put down the people who are instigating the violence. There's only one group in particular that is consistently committing acts of violence. This is these white mobs, these white Confederate soldiers. They are the shit starters. They are constantly starting shit. It was estimated that 46 blacks were killed. Of course, many more were injured. 2 white rioters died. Nearly 100 homes, 12 schools, 4 churches were destroyed. Why? Because these white, violent agitators were pissed off that black Union soldiers was keeping the community safe. They're just doing their jobs. Actually, if you wouldn't be so fucking violent and stupid, they wouldn't have a job. They wouldn't need to keep this job. But it's because your violent, stupid ass is running around here, killing, stealing, raping, and then plus they done gave your dumb ass a badge. How in the hell are we supposed to, live and thrive on our own when y'all keep fucking with us? Now remember, this all started because a white officer tried to arrest a black Union soldier. They somehow want to figure out a way to try and exert their power over us. Even if that's something just as stupid as putting us under arrest. Y'all see that today? You see it today. It's still happening. They are mad when someone is doing better than them, someone black is doing better than them, or knows a little bit more than them. They are pissed off. And so what they want to do, they want to retaliate. How? Violently. We know that after the New Orleans riots, there was a move to push for the Reconstruction Acts. And the Memphis riots contributed to that as well. So within a month, a congressional committee came to investigate. The investigation and interviews were thorough, but the report was controlled by radical Republicans in Congress, because remember, this is in May, and the elections weren't until November of that year. So, of course, we know the violence continued for at least 3 days. It stretched into the second day because, here's another pattern. The Memphis mayor, John Park, refused to request state or federal assistance. Again, I'm pretty sure he was a ex-Confederate. So on the afternoon of the third day, the general who sent the black troops to Fort Pickering, he declared martial law and sent black and white troops in the city to reestablish order. And I'm guessing that, worked a little on some level, because it ended on the third day. Now, within a month, a congressional committee arrived to investigate the riot. The report was controlled by radical Republicans in Congress, and it was used to gain support for Reconstruction policies. the report increased the rapid endorsement of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. And of course, that was making all ex-slaves citizens, and then increasing the Republican majority in November. So, and we know that from the New Orleans massacre that the Republicans eventually took over Congress in November. Now, the purpose of the report was to show how vulnerable Southern blacks were immediately after the Civil War. But the report targeted Irish Southerners as their major threat, as opposed to white Southerners in general. So they blamed this on the Irish instead of just the whites. This is just the white Confederates. Y'all know who this was. Remember, this is them again allowing the shit to continue, giving it an okay. The report blamed the Irish police force of Memphis, as well as the Black Irish competition for manual labor jobs for the quote-unquote tensions. It essentially ignored the non-whites who participated in the riots and the role of the black soldiers who before the fighting had been given the responsibility for patrolling the city. The white people was mad that the black soldiers had the authority. It was just that simple. So they gonna blame the Black Irish competition for manual job labor, for manual labor jobs, but just ignored the fact that it was not just Irish people fighting for these jobs, but it was white people fighting for these jobs. I mean, and remember, this is the manual labor jobs. Remember, I said, we are fresh out of enslavement. We are drowning in skills, especially manual labor. That's all we have done is manual labor for the past, 300 years? Well, no, this is 18. Well, yeah, 200 years, because when we got here, 1619, right? So, yeah, it's about 200 years. So, this is, of course, their reaction to black people being in charge. Now, this is black people being in charge of themselves. They're overseeing the safety of the community. You don't want the community safe? Oh, no, you just want the job. Yet you're not safe. You are the one that wants to enact violence on people. So guess what all happened? Because I said before, I just sort of said assaults, looting, all of that, right? Well, I guess because the reports uncovered a little bit more, some stuff that was a little bit, the reports went a little bit deeper. And of course, we know the 46 blacks that was killed. The two whites died. One was result of an accident. The other, a policeman, died because of a self-inflicted gunshot. It's good to note that. So black people they didn't even kill nobody. But look at this. There were at least five rapes. There that goes again. Why? How does that get in this? Even if you just leave it, even if you just separate everything and just say, you know what? We are violent and we like to kill. We like to see bloodshed. How in the hell did rape get into it? Even if you just beat up people or you're shooting people. But you don't want to stop there? You actually got to go as far as raping people? What the fuck is wrong with you? These are the people that you are letting lead society. Not just because they're leading society, but because your reaction to this type of shit is nothing. You brushing it off. You leaving it there. You letting it happen. Why? Because it's happening to black people. That shit doesn't make you human. That is a problem. And some people can say shit like, well, you know, that's my brother and I have to, you know, look out for my brother. Okay, maybe your brother. That's one person. But even your brother, if you know that your brother is this type of person and have these types of tendencies, you, one, either need to deal with your brother yourself, or two, at least shield society from his ass. Why would you unleash this on society? Not to mention, you letting him be the fucking loudest. And now he's got people behind him, and they're following him. And now they're mimicking him. How could white people not know that this shit creates a immoral society? It not just creates a immoral society, it builds on the immoral society that you claim to have been getting rid of during the Civil War. This was the point of you all fighting for it, right? Because it was wrong. Slavery is wrong. It's bad. It's immoral. But you let your criminals, your murderers, your rapists, let me change that. You let white criminals, white murderers, white racists, white rapists, you unleash them on other communities because you've discarded a whole group of people as not human. That is not morally right. It's totally immoral. There's nothing moral about that. Well, I'm going to let them kill, steal, and rape because they only doing it to black people. Really? Really, white people? Really? Because see, this is what y'all doing right now. This is what y'all doing right now today. You are letting your political leaders with these tendencies lead the overall country, lead a lot of these states, and now we can hear the rhetoric. We can hear them say this shit and talk this shit. And you think that by you sitting by and letting it happen, that you are a moral person? No. You think by staying quiet, it makes you a moral person? No, you don't get no points for that. You should be the main ones trying to uproot this shit from your community because it's a reflection of you. Remember after, it wasn't after. During the Holocaust, I'm saying it. I'm not trying to censor anything. Okay. Everybody gets scared when you talk about Jewish people and all that shit. Fuck that. I don't care about that shit. Like, ain't no, what did I call them at first? I'm not doing no disclaimers before I say anything. No, I ain't doing that shit. And no disclaimer. No, let's just say what the fuck it is, because in the same manner that I talk about slavery, I'll talk about the Holocaust. In the same way that I talk about the perpetuators of slavery, I'll talk about the perpetuators of the Holocaust. In the same way that I talk about the northern bystanders who sat by and allow slavery to permeate the society and expand, I'll talk about the white Jewish people who sat by and allow the hatred to permeate their own society. Yes, you did that. You said that it was okay for this person to discriminate against somebody for whatever reason. And then what happened? The shit eventually spilled over to you. And so now, of course, it's horrible. It's a horrible event. People shouldn't have to die. People shouldn't have to die in these fucking massacres. But why did they die in these massacres? Because there were white people who stood by and let it happen. In the same way the people were killed in the Holocaust. In the same fucking way. They let the others in their community be harassed, beaten, raped, pillaged. There were neighbors that let this shit happen during the Holocaust. And then the U.S. was so bad that they kept the shit going here in America, even during the Holocaust. Because what did Hitler say? He said, "Oh, I just studied Jim Crow." And that's how I started doing this shit. I just studied Jim Crow. When Hitler first started with his brown shirts or whatever, they used to go and target the most vulnerable in the community. He first targeted the mentally retarded people in the community. Then he was targeting the elderly people in the community. And then it just carried over. It just grew from that. People knew that shit was happening. They didn't say nothing. The same way these people didn't say nothing. The same way these congressional members in this investigation somehow tried to steer this shit towards Irish people, towards the white Irish. Remember, they didn't like them too, right? Remember, they didn't actually become white until the 40s or 30s, maybe the 20s. Early 19th century is when they became white. So we know that these people are violent and shit, but we gonna blame it. We know the regular white people, former Confederates, are violent and shit, but instead, we're gonna blame it on the Irish because shit, they white. And then we could still explain the racial tension here We don't have to go all the way into it because we could just use the Irish. We ain't got to tell on us. We can still point out that it's racial tension, though. That didn't help the problem. That made it worse. Because now these white former Confederates is like, oh, well, shit, the federal government ain't gonna do shit. So, shit, y'all ready for next week? Shit, well, I heard about this black community, this other black community. Let's go massacre that bitch. Yeah, that might be cool. Shit. See you next week. Cause they ain't do shit. Federal government didn't do nothing. They make them believe that something would happen to them if they keep massacring black people. They ain't do shit about it. The most they did was on the federal level, which that was just a piece of paper. Hell, remember the Confederates didn't even recognize the federal government as a government, as a legitimate government. They said, y'all ain't no fucking government. If you a government, you don't run us. Well, we got our own state. We doing our own shit. This is how you get the argument of states' rights and federalism and sectionalism. Now remember, all these terms were made up. Okay? All these terms were made up to teach the Civil War. None of these were not really the issue. The issue around the Civil War was slavery. That's it. It was solely based on slavery. The states did not want to recognize the power of the federal government. They wanted to be able to have their own little federal governments within their state, which is exactly what happened. Because you can see that now, how you can cross from one state to the next and the laws completely change. You can cross from one state to the next and the laws are opposite. In a sense, they was able to get what they wanted. I mean, they lost slavery, but hell, the way they see it, shit, we'll get it. We'll make up for it some other place. Eventually they did. You see in the southern states a trend of some of the lowest paying wages in the country. Yeah. They want the cheapest labor. These are the same people. These are the same, families. Or these are the same people with that same mindset about labor and working and paying people, what they are owed. They don't want to do it. They'll go to any extent to pay the least amount that they have to. So much so that in 2023, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. No one can live on $7.25. This just underscores how the challenge of rebuilding the South and protecting Black people from exploitation and white violence. And even though we are, about 200 years out of, well, no, I may not say that, because let's say about 100 years out of Reconstruction, some of those places still look the same. Not in physical appearance, but those social undercurrents and also the economic undercurrents. They are on track with the Confederacy. This is what the Confederacy always wanted. And they essentially kept it going. They made a deal, which is why the Reconstruction era didn't last long. But this is what happens when Black people are just doing their own thing, going about their own way, just living. And when we try to protect ourselves from the worst parts of your society, you not only give the okay for them to continue to do it, but you uphold it. And then you reprimand us for trying to do the right thing. That is a serious, serious problem. But this is American history. This is the true American history. The history of racial violence, rape, pillaging, looting, from specifically white people. I don't see not a near thing about a massive black massacre. A bunch of black people massacred a bunch of white people. I still haven't seen it yet. I've seen some where they just defended themselves from a massacre, but I have not seen a mass murdering of white people by black people. Hasn't happened. So that says a lot about white people, their ideas, and how they allow the worst parts of their society to spill over into ours, even when we're not even near them. They seek us out. They come to us. And so we'll start the next episode in this series, Echoes of Tragedy. We'll discuss the Colfax Massacre of 1873 and the Hamburg Massacre of 1876. So join us next time as we uncover some of the harrowing truths and some of the worst violent massacres of black people by white citizens. Thanks for joining me, and we'll pick it back up on the second installment of this series, Echoes of Tragedy.